Welcome to the first production of The Road Show. I'm the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, Michele Economou Ureste. This is the Spring 2014 program. Please watch for this program on a biannual basis. In this newly updated Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communication Commission studio with educational programming such as The Road Show, the commercial networks are going to have a tough time competing. Co-hosts for this program are Dennis Kolar, Managing Director of the Road Commission for Oakland County, and Marshall Labadie, the West Bloomfield Development Services Director. In this segment, we will cover road funding, 2014 approved road projects, the 14-mile and Orchard Lake Road intersection improvement project known as the Triangle, pothole concerns, the Township Special Assessment District SAD process for road reconstruction on secondary or subdivision roads, and the county SAD process. Green Lake Road is one of the worst roads in West Bloomfield Township. Are there plans, Dennis, to reconstruct it?
Well, certainly Green Lake Road is a hot topic. As you know, Michelle, we have first applied for what they call federal aid for that project. And scoring it and rating it with other roads within the county, it just didn't quite score properly, or high enough, if you will. So now we're looking, and we'll talk in a minute about the priority projects at the state level. But in the meantime, just want to point out, as soon as the asphalt plants open in the spring, which probably be mid to late April, we'll be out there with our crews and doing what we call some hot mix patching. Now this time of year, we're only using what they call cold patch, even though we heat it up. But the hot patch will be a little bit more permanent fix through the summer, and then we'll see where we go with the priority projects.
Last week, the state legislature approved $115 million of surplus funds for roads. Could you discuss the 2014 priority project list that you submitted on behalf of West Bloomfield?
Certainly can, Michelle. Actually, for the second round, as you know, there was the first round, $115 million for road projects, but in the second list, there's a number of West Bloomfield projects that are part of that list. Not the least of which is certainly Green Lake Road, from Pontiac Trail to Commerce. Then we have some overlay projects, Commerce Road from Union Lake to Orchard Lake, and from on Maple Road from Orchard Lake to Covington, and finally an overlay on Middle Belt from 14-mile road to Orchard Lake. Then we have a number of what we call B culverts or B bridges that are not eligible for state funds as far as the state bridge program. So we've also applied for funds for Maple Road over the Franklin branch of the Rouge, which is west of Inkster, Putnam Drive over the Walnut Lake Canal, and that's west of Green Lake Road, and Commerce Road over Green Lake Canal. So until June, we won't know, which projects are selected. You got to remember there's 83 counties that are vying for $115 million in project, and the total list that the Road Commission is requesting is almost $31 million. So, we're hopeful. Certainly Green Lake Road is one of the ones that's on the top of our list.
Very good. At the end of 2013, risk reserve funds were approved by the state legislature. Could you discuss any projects that were submitted and approved for West Bloomfield in connection with these funds?
Yeah, so we were fortunate enough to receive funding for the overlay, or what we call preservation overlay, of Walnut Lake Road from Halstead to Franklin. Certainly a lot of viewers are going to say, why can't we use that money for Green Lake Road? And certainly it was approved by the legislature, but when we're managing the road system, what we're doing is we want to preserve Walnut Lake Road so it does not become another Green Lake Road. So those are some of the mixed bags of fixes we use to try to preserve the system.
Shifting the focus from state-funded road projects, are there any federal-funded road projects that will be completed this year?
Well, certainly in West Bloomfield and City of Farmington Hills, we're all excited about as you mentioned earlier, what we call the Triangle project, but it's a major part of the overall Northwestern Connector project, which involves the realignment of 14-mile road that's east of Northwestern. We're going to realign it south. construction of a modern roundabout at 14 Mile Road in Orchard Lake. Now that project is scheduled to begin sometime mid-July. We were hopeful to be out a little bit earlier, but as a lot of these road projects, it's the acquisition of the property necessary to construct the job that takes some time. But the plan is that we'll have 14 Mile Road realigned with Northwestern and work in that area completed this year. And first thing next year in the spring, we'll start with the construction of the roundabout at 14 Mile Road in Orchard Lake. Certainly there's a lot of work to do there. We looked at the amount of concrete pavement, and it's over a mile of concrete pavement that must be done in that short stretch. So there's a lot of work in a short stretch, and we'll certainly ask for patience of the residents.
Well, this winter has been really tough on our roads. What kind of impact did that have on your budget?
Well, it had an enormous impact on the budget. Our budget for winter maintenance is about $12 million countywide. And right now we're probably over 14 million. And you know, the meter's running. We still have to get our cost in from last week. Was a significant storm. Just to let some of the viewers know, this is the first time that we've hired private contractors to help us in subdivisions at times and some of our gravel roads. Now, it wasn't in West Bloomfield as far as what we call the back gravel roads, but we've spent well over $500,000 on contractors to help us with subs and back roads. Now, what was just passed last week by the state legislators and the governor signed it was to put $100 million through what they call the formula, which will go, some will go to MDOT, some will go to county road agencies to help reimburse us for the winter that we've had. Now, that's good news for all of us because most of us road agencies were already starting to look at, okay, what aren't we going to do later in the year to make up for that? So with that, it's certainly not the solution, but it helps us to maintain with our program throughout the rest of the year.
So why are the potholes so bad this year? Will they get worse, and what will be done?
Well, certainly, as we were talking right before the show, we believe that, you know, the potholes are going to get worse. The frost is still almost 5 foot in the ground. This week will be in the 40s a little bit, so that will help. Next week it's going to be in the 20s, so we're going to go back to a freeze thaw. Once things finally thaw out, we haven't seen the worst of it yet. You know, you say what causes it. Certainly there's cracks in the pavement, and that's where water gets in, and then it'll pop. But it's also a reflection of the condition of the age of the pavements themselves.
And how about the state as a whole? Why are the roads so bad in Michigan, and how does Michigan compare to other states in terms of road funding?
Well, that's a real good question, Michelle, and it's something that as we go around at the Road Commission and talk to people, you really need to understand. We try to blame heavy trucks. We try to talk about warranties, and not that those things don't have an effect, but really it gets down to what has Michigan invested in the infrastructure over, could be the past 50 years. And just a recent report ranks the state of Michigan 50. So we're dead last in the amount of funding that we put in our infrastructure. And you can go back to 1964, we were 43rd, and you can go up from there. We're always in the 40s. So really, we're reaping what we sowed before. Our lack of investment over the years is now catching up with us.
Well, that's an interesting statistic. If the funding doesn't change, what will happen to the roads in the coming years?
Well, I also have, and I think they'll put the slide up, that the Michigan Asset Management Council, I could back up just for a minute and explain that a few years ago, and it's probably a number of years ago now, when the road agencies were saying we're going to need more funding, the state legislators said, well, we don't know what kind of shape the road system's in. So we started what they call the Michigan Asset Management Council. And what that involves is you go out and rate all your roads. So you get conditions, poor, good, or poor, fair, and good. Now, if you look at the chart, you'll see that our roads are continuing to fail, and as they go from good to fair to poor, the rate of deterioration just becomes more rapid. And really, that's where we are today. I mean, we have the data to show that the system will continue to deteriorate. My predecessor used to like to say the roads are not going to get any better than they are today.
Can our residents do anything about the road conditions?
Certainly, your residents should contact their state legislators, your state senator, your state rep, the governor's office, and ask that something be done. You know, the road agencies, there's a number of things that we've done, and it's good business. You know, people talked about our legacy costs. We've changed our retirements. We've changed our health care costs. We've changed our retirement health care. Road agencies have done everything we can to maximize the amount of money we put into the system, but obviously it's just not enough.
Very good. Marshall.
Yeah, to go along with what Dennis has just stated, the lack of investment over time and the age of our infrastructure, many residents that live within our subdivisions and condominium complexes are facing with this deteriorating infrastructure. And when that began to worsen over time, they began to call the township and said, what can we do about it? What options are available to us? And we had this long-serving SAD program that we used to use predominantly for water and sewer infrastructure. But under Public Act 188, which governs how we move forward with special assessment districts, we have the ability to address roads. The first few projects, we probably have done about $4 to $5 million of projects over the last 5 years, all focused on roads. We're generally private roads, where the ability to get capital to make these improvements were quite limited. But we've also started to begin to be asked to do public roads. So, recognizing the condition of our infrastructure and the need, the Township Board directed myself along with the Township Assessor and the Finance Director to form an SAD committee to fine-tune our Special Assessment District process to ensure, one, that we are effectively delivering the service desired by the residents. Do we have the financial capability to help and assist, and to do it in an effective and efficient manner? But the good thing is that that's what really drove the SAD committee to come up with a policy. How is it that we're going to finance it? How are we going to rate and score, similar to the Road Commission, on all these requests for projects? And the Township Board remains very committed to maintaining our secondary road network, because there's a link to the integrity of neighborhoods along with home values. And we are seeing that anecdotally. We don't have evidence, which we're trying to produce some documentation to show that when you invest in your roads, your home values aren't only preserved, but they rebound more quickly than similarly positioned homes in other neighborhoods. What we're finding is we have a series of projects that have come in for that. We've had Fox Point, Aldenbrook, Maple Creek, Maple Place, Stonebridge, Chimney Hill, and Willow Farms. The average SAD price is $7,000 to $12,000, depending on the condition of the roads. And we have two ways in which we can finance projects. We have some limitations. Either we have to sell municipal bonds for the project, which carry some finance costs, which generally drive up the per household costs. But the other option that the board has really been exploring, and to their credit done a wonderful job, is assisting these neighborhoods by directly financing the projects with our general fund surplus. And we're finding the money, we're recovering it more quickly, so we're not out that money for a prolonged period of time, but it's a good use because it's a safe investment. We generate some revenue for the community and the general fund, but we are able to deliver a service the residents want in a quick fashion. So kudos to the board for really taking that action and moving forward, and to my counterparts in assessing and finance for really helping move this project forward.
Assuming a subdivision association is interested in pursuing a special assessment district, please describe what is involved in the process and the township's requirements.
Sure. When a community or a neighborhood group are interested in an SAD project, their first step is to call the township, ask for the Development Services Department. They could ask for myself or any of my staff members. Hopefully the phone number and website will be given at the end of this program. So they sit down and we go over what it is exactly they look to do. Is it complete road rehabilitation? Is it the full subdivision? What is it, what are the existing conditions? We kind of do a preliminary look at that. And if the project seems viable and something that we can assist with, then we ask them to write a letter to the township supervisor, to you, as you've seen those, and we do require a $2,500 non-refundable payment. So they make a commitment to us. So we don't start spending costs on engineering estimates without there being a commitment on part of the neighborhood association. What we also do, and since Dennis is here and I know he'll speak to it, is we always, for the public road network, for some of these subdivisions, they're public roads. The other option is to explore with the road commission what their process is for SADs. They have a very long-serving program as well that does a very good job at doing the exact same things. So we always encourage our residents to go to the road commission if it's a public road first. If for whatever reason they still want to come to the township process, we would be more than glad to help them. But there are two options for them. One is the township level and one at the county level to move forward. If the project is feasible and they make that payment and write that letter to you, the next step is we do an engineer's estimate and then we develop a petition, a legal petition that has to be circulated amongst the residents in that SAD district. We will give them the names, the contacts, who really forms the group of benefiting parcels in the special assessment district. Once we have that information, I usually have a series of meetings with the neighborhood group, and then they have to go out and circulate the petitions. If they get our threshold of 60%, which is the minimum threshold of land area and residents in the area, or within the SAD district, then there's a three-step process, 3 public meetings that the township board must hold under state statute to do this. The first resolution meeting is a presentation of petitions where I come to the board, as we've done in the past, and say this group of residents has petitioned and wish to move forward. If the township board feels it's necessary or there's the project is warranted, if you will, then they'll move forward with the 2 public hearings, which the first one is Resolution 2, which is a hearing of necessity. Is the project necessary to address their needs and how we plan on financing? And it also sets the township supervisor to establish the special assessment role with the township assessor. And if that goes well, we go to Resolution 3, which basically approves the assessment role. If that goes, I move forward, authorize my engineer to start designing the project. We go out to bid and construct. But again, as we kind of going back and forth here with Dennis and I, they also have a very similar program to address public roads and neighborhoods.
Yes, Dennis, could you explain the differences with your program?
I think I'll just touch on the differences because a lot of the meetings and petitions, well, first we don't charge a deposit, so I'll put a plug in for my agency. But on the finance side, we do not use general fund money. We go out for revenue notes. So yes, there are some finance charges, and I believe sometimes it's probably more than the townships.
Probably because on a project-by-project basis.
Yeah. One of the ways the way we special assess is we use what we call a unit of benefit. And I know you use the number of lots at the township level, or the lineal footage, or you use the number of lots.
Yeah, we just use household by household benefit. Each household derives the same benefit, so we equitably spread the cost.
And in our view, because we always have people in challenging how you come up with a unit of benefit, we believe it's the best mix between the number of lots and lineal footage. It's not solely one way or another. So that's a difference. And other than that, I think both of them are pretty similar. So it's a matter of the residents checking on what's their best value for them. And we certainly appreciate when the township helps us out.
Yep, and again, like Michelle was indicating, we have certain limitations on how much we can finance. So again, we always encourage everybody to go to the road commission program first for public roads because you have a greater capacity to handle those roads, and that's your day-to-day business.
Well, this has been a very informative discussion. As the West Bloomfield Township Supervisor, I have been speaking with the Managing Director of the Road Commission, Dennis Kolar, and the West Bloomfield Development Services Director, Marshall Labadie. They are my co-hosts of the biannual production of the Greater West Bloomfield Road Show. Thank you for watching.